Okay, so we have talked about the rules quite a bit, but I thought maybe a practical example would do us all some good. So we're going to go through a very simple combat with 2 players and 3 enemies. We're not going to do any spells. We're just going to do straight weapons and armor, just smashing together. So just to give you the layout here, Juniper is our mage over here on the right. They have a sling staff, which throws rocks for 1d4. It can also be used as a 2-handed weapon. We have Daggett. He's green. He's going to be using 2 daggers and a short bow, wearing leather armor. On the rest of the board, we see this green pyramid in the middle. That is the entrance to a camp. That is what we're trying to get to, and it is guarded by 2 goblins, white and blue. All of the goblins only have HP. They do not have armor. This is very common for enemies in Words of Power. It keeps things going quickly. So they're going to have a dagger and a bola. Now a bola is a little weird. When you throw it, its accuracy is 1d6. But if it hits, it will bind. And the person bound will have to make a check to break it. Just an example of an item that you could have. Over here on the right is our initiative tracker. These are not in order yet, but I use them like this, and I just kind of want to give an example of it. So the scenario that we're using here is that our 2 players are in the forest. They've identified this camp. Where the green pyramid is a ladder into the ground, guarded by these 3 goblins. The outer goblin is patrolling, and the 2 middle goblins are standing watch. So, because the players are the aggressor, they're not detected, and they have all day to figure out how they want to approach this. They can choose which of the outer circles they want to join in. So we're going to have them join in D6 and D4. So to start combat, they will be going first because they're the aggressors. If they were evenly matched and they had both fallen into a position where it wasn't clear who was going to attack first, we would roll 1d6 and the winning side would go. But most of the time there is a clear aggressor and a clear defender. Aggressor goes first. Whoever makes the first offensive move that requires like attack rolls to resolve. So we're going to bring them into D6 and D4. Now, on the first turn of combat, you choose which order you go in. So Daggett could go first, or Juniper could go first, and then that will be the locked order for the rest of the combat. So we are going to have Juniper go first, and we're going to have Daggett go second, and then these goblins will, on their turn, they'll all go. So first thing we're going to do is figure out who we want to attack ranged. Now ranged attacks you can't make adjacently on the same ring. There's no one here to attack, so it's not a problem. You can attack adjacently across rings, so into C2 or C3. But again, nobody there. So we want to get closer to a target to attack. So I think we're going to go D5, and we are going to use our sling staff to attack blue. Now the way that ranged attacks work is you just count the movement and subtract 2. You round up, and for every 2, you go up a die size. So we start at D6. Moving to C3 would be 2 movement, but it's free. And then 2 more to get to B2. So our die goes up 1 size. So instead of rolling a D6 for our attack, we will roll the D8. So we roll the D8. We get a 7. Now in Words of Power, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are generally hits. Everything above that is a miss until you get to the maximum number on the die. Then it's a crit. So a 7 is a miss. No good, no damage. My turn is over because I did 2 actions. I moved and I attacked. So now Daggett is up. Daggett is going to circle around to D7 and attack the red goblin with his dagger. Now daggers are 1d6, 1d4. That means we roll a d6 to see if we hit. We got a 1. That 1 corresponds to the head hit zone, which has 2 HP So we roll 1d4 to see what our damage is. Our damage is 3, so this goblin is dead. Now, had I prepared a list of words, Daggett would draw a word at this point, but we're not talking about magic today. So that concludes our turn because we both did 2 actions. So we'll move these over as they act, and we'll go to red. Red is dead, we'll take him off the board. Blue, or white. Now, part of the design of the battle board is how much time it takes to move between rings. White can't really do anything from B1. He can't get to D7. He can't get to D5. Really all he can do is move to C1. He could use a ranged attack. He could throw the bola at somebody, and he might do that. But this makes it represents defenders having to scramble to get into position. If they're in a strong position, they can sit here and weather ranged attacks all day. But they're also kind of sitting ducks. The mobility of being on the outside of a fight is very desirable. So we are going to have him move to C1. That takes 2 actions. So his turn is done. Blue is going to move to C3. Also a full turn. He's done. So then we go to the top of the round. Yellow. Now that somebody's in range, he's going to use this sling staff to attack, which is 1d8, 1d10. We roll the d8 to see if we hit. We got a 5. That, again, doesn't correspond to a hit zone, and so it's a miss. So he will swing and I think he's going to move to d6. Yeah. Okay, so his turn is over. Let's move him into the initiative tracker. Daggett. Daggett is up. So he can move into this space with the corpse because corpses don't block spaces. And from there, he can attack into C1. He'll do that with 1d6 for his dagger. It's a 5, also a miss. His turn is complete. We're back to white. Now white is going to throw this bola at Daggett. And he can do that because it's across into another range, another circle. So the attack roll on that is 1d6 because there's not enough room for it to increase. 3, so he gets the legs of Daggett, which is fantastic. So now when Daggett wants to make a move, taking a step primarily because it's his legs, he'll have to roll an opposed 1d6 to break out of that bola before he can move around. So having landed that, our white is going to circle this way to C4 so that he can fight the other enemy. It's a good turn for white. Okay, so blue is already in a position to attack d6. So he's going to do that. He's going to use his dagger, 1d6, 1d4. And we get a 6. Now, the maximum number on a die, whether it's a d6 or a d8 or a d10, if you get 6, 8, or 10, you will get a critical hit. And in Words of Power, critical hits let you choose a hit zone. Generally, you're going to end up choosing the head, but there are reasons to choose other hit zones. Sometimes there are magic items that need to be destroyed. Sometimes you want to stop a specific ability, like a scorpion's stinger. Sometimes you want to cripple the legs specifically to stop someone from running. There are lots of reasons to choose lots of hit zones. But in this case, we're just going to go for the face. So I'm going to roll the d4. We're going to get 4. Now, because this, you've got cloth 2 armor. Now, the way that damage works is that if damage breaks your armor, the extra damage is discarded. It does not go to your HP. This means that nobody wearing armor is going to get 1 shot. They will at least require 2 hits to die. So we're going to go to Juniper's card here. And since we choose 1, the head hit zone, we're going to destroy that armor. So that goes to 0. Now, only that hit zone's armor is gone. So imagine they're wearing a helmet. The helmet is destroyed. That does not come back until a 6-hour rest. If he gets hit in the head again, that'll go from his HP. So this is an effective hit, but it's not all that close to killing him unless we get another headshot. So that will be his turn. We'll go back to Juniper. So Juniper is going to circle to D7, preventing blue from attacking, potentially. And he's going to try to whack white with his staff again. So again, a D8. We get a 2. That is the main hand hit zone. So it's going to be like your right arm. And because it's a two-handed weapon, he rolls a D10 for damage, which is a ton in Words of Power. Potentially. He gets a 2, which is enough to take a goblin out. So you'll notice that with the goblins, we only have to destroy one hit zone. With a player, if you destroy an arm or something, they keep fighting, they keep going. But for brevity, to keep the game from bogging down and having to destroy lots of armor and zones and HP, we don't do that with enemies. With little grunt enemies like goblins, you destroy one hit zone, that's enough to send them out. They are considered dead at that point. So 2 down, again, if we had a list of words, we'd be drawing a word for this last hit. We moved, we attacked, Juniper's turn is done. Okay. Moving on to Daggett. Daggett is still bound. His legs are. So he's going to make that attempt to break the bind. I will roll for the bola first. I always set the difficulty first. So 2. And if Daggett had any special tags, like if he had Escape Artist or Rope Master or something, you know, you could apply a second D6 to this. But he doesn't. 2 is enough. Meeting or beating is fine as long as it's more than 1. So he can move. Because he beat the bind, he is able to move without losing an action. Had he failed that roll, it would have cost his action to attempt to escape. So, now that he's free, he's going to move into C4. I'm just going to move this corpse. Okay. So his turn is over. That's 2 actions to get into C4. So it is White's turn. White is dead. Blue's turn. Blue is going to, I think, just attack Daggett. Oh, that didn't really roll. 4. So 4 is your offhand, or your left hand, usually. D4, D4. Where is my D4? There we go. How much damage? We got 1. So from Daggett's armor, in the 4th hit zone, we'll go to 2. Okay. So after blue is yellow. Yellow will continue with the staff strikes. 7. Another miss. And Daggett will be up. Now, because Daggett is... he doesn't have to move to catch blue because blue did not move on his turn. He can use a full round to dual wield his daggers. And the way that this works is you roll 2 attack rolls, and the higher one you have to take, even if it misses. So we're going to roll for the first dagger. 6. We're going to roll for the second. 1. So we take the 6, which lets us choose a hit zone. In this case, we're going to choose the head. If these had matched, if they had both been 1s or both 6s, we would roll damage for both weapons. But because they did not, we only roll damage for 1. So in this case, that is a D4 for the dagger for the head hit zone, which is 2. That's enough to kill our goblin. Again, if we had a word list at this point, we would draw a word for getting the last hit on an enemy. This has been a super quick, kind of sketchy walk through a very simple combat in Words of Power. I hope it shows kind of the abstraction of the battle board and how time dilates from the middle to the outside. The outside moves a lot faster than the inner ones, but the inner ones allow you to form and block. And it also makes it harder to get to the objective the closer you get, the more attacks you're going to be able to take. So there's a lot going on with Battle Board. I hope it's a little more clear now that you have an example. If you want more actual examples of the mechanics, leave that in the comments, let me know, and I will see what I can do. Thanks.